This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now.
Well, welcome to Open Line. I'm your host, Darren Bent, sitting in this week, and the week has flown here, and myself and Dave Williams in the booth are excited to get going for another show on this sort of cloudy, cool Thursday. Lots to talk about today, and of course, we're hearing the polls out of Quebec recently have the Liberal Party just ahead of the Bloc Party there, and of course, the Liberal Party in Quebec, as we heard earlier today, is kind of pro-MOU. We know Christine Frichette's CAQ are way down in the polls, unlikely at this point to get re-elected in October, but are carrying enough points in the polls that if you add them to the Liberals, that could be majority coalition there, of course, and the Parti Québécois is in second place, 3 or 4 points behind the Liberals. So you see, you got two parties in Quebec that are kind of pro-MOU, so that obviously leads to some great importance as to what the provincial government here under Premier Tony Wakeham are going to release later this month, at the end of the month, to see where they stand, see what they want to do with the MOU that was negotiated by the Liberals and is coming under scrutiny from their side and independent, of course, but a new scrutiny, I suppose, and there'll be debate over whether it's independent or not independent. But of course, the framework or the possibility for a framework deal with Quebec still exists in Quebec, and it looks like it's possible that it may last beyond the October election in Quebec now, as the Liberals are surging in that province. We can talk about that if you want to. There's lots of other things on the go. I just want to mention this because I know we have some great sports fans out there, and tonight is the last regular season game for the NHL, and we've had some remarkable things happen this year, especially with a couple of the Canadian teams. You know, the Montreal Canadiens, and I got to say up front, I am not a Montreal Canadian fan, nor am I a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. Let me make that clear to begin with. But Montreal Canadiens, who spent 22, 23, and 24 in the basement of their division, eked their way into the playoffs last year, contended for the division championship this year, and are going full guns and heading into the playoffs with what could be a long run. And of course, on the other end of the spectrum, the Toronto Maple Leafs that won the division last year and were certainly near the top of the division for 3 or 4 years are actually finishing in last place in the division. So what a difference a year makes there. You know, from the Montreal Canadiens standpoint, some star scoring from Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki have made a big difference. They got a goaltender now that's standing on his head every second night that's keeping him going. So we'll see if the Montreal Canadiens can make that long run into the playoffs. They are the last Canadian team to have won a Stanley Cup way back in 1993. And I know Kelly Rudy reminds them on the broadcast Hockey Night in Canada to stop talking about that because he was the goaltender on the losing side for Los Angeles that year. But Cole Caulfield's 51 goals, the first time a Canadiens player has scored 50 goals in a season since way back in 1990 when Stéphane Richer did it. And he did it twice. And then before him, you've got to go back to Guy Lafleur and Pierre LaRouche. And that's strange to me because, you know, you think of the Montreal Canadiens and all these goal scorers, but quite frankly, those big days were kind of in the 70s and didn't carry too far into the 80s. So there have been few and far between. So the Montreal Canadiens, a team to watch in the playoffs, they have drawn the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round. The Ottawa Senators have gotten into the playoffs. They're going to draw the Carolina Hurricanes. That's going to be a tough run for them because Carolina's been a standout team all year long. And out in the West, the only other Canadian team to make the playoffs, the Edmonton Oilers have drawn the Anaheim Ducks in the NHL playoffs. Get going on Saturday. There's still a couple of games on the schedule tonight to finish the season off. So Saturday, we'll be into the playoffs, and if you're a big hockey fan, probably some late nights and some weary mornings coming up for you, for sure. Now, we have some callers on the line, and I'm going to go to them right away. So, Dave, where are we going first? Line number one, and on line one, I see we have Kathy. And Kathy, I'm trying to get you on. I think you're on there now. And Kathy, you want to talk about speed cam tickets.
Yes. Yesterday, I received a registered letter in the mail. Someone came to my door, and I had to sign for it. It was from the webcams, and they said that I had been speeding. And so I went to investigate more because on all the paperwork I got, the amount wasn't on the ticket. There was no amount. So I phoned the number, and they said it's $650. I said, what?
Wow.
They said $650. I was going along Waterford Road, and I was going 52 in a school zone that is 30. Okay, now granted, if they want to give me a ticket, that's fine if I was doing something wrong. But $650? Like, that's a little bit steep. So I started to investigate it, because if you don't pay it, you get, you get penalized, and they can eventually charge 30% more. They told me if I didn't pay it, I wouldn't be able to use Ministry of Transport to do anything at all. And so I took my ticket because I am a senior on a fixed income. And I went down to the police station. I said, is this for real? What's going on? And they said, it has nothing to do with us. I said, what do you mean it has nothing to do with that? This is a speeding ticket. Oh, no, that's the webcams. That's through the Ministry of Transport. So I drove all the way to Mount Pearl. I live downtown, to the Ministry of Transport. And they said, oh, no, that has nothing to do with us. You have to phone the number on the form and go to that website. And he says, well, I said, I want to speak to somebody in person. Well, then you got to go down to the office at 50 Elizabeth Avenue. So I drove all the way down to 50 Elizabeth Avenue. I go into where the fines are paid. I said, I want to talk to somebody face-to-face about this. She says, well, you have to go to the website. The website is not secure. It says on the website that this is not a secure website. It's public, out in the public. I go, what is going on? So I said to her, she wouldn't give me the sheet that showed how much I owed. So I paid her a $5 bill in cash because I'm not giving her my credit card number. And I said, okay, here, I'll pay $5 until it's paid off. So she gives me the receipt, $645 owing. And I said, don't you guys have anything to do with it? Oh, no, we don't have anything to do with this. I said, who in Newfoundland has something to do with this? She says, nobody. The government signed off for this company in Ontario called Genoptic, Genoptik, to have full access to our cameras and issue tickets, and nobody in this province can do anything about it. They have free reign to have all our information. When you're driving down that road, they have your license number, all of your information, all over Ontario, and we have no way of doing anything about it.
Well, that's incredible. So did they explain to you why it was $650? Was there an explanation for any of that? Or did you just get, no, we don't know anything. No. We just work here.
No, because they don't have anything to do with it. And when you look at the paperwork from this Genoptic place, it says we are PEACE officers authorized by the Newfoundland provincial government to issue these tickets.
Wow. I am looking, to a government posting that seems to be saying that the speed fine tickets range from the webcam from $200 to $1,900. I wonder what constitutes a $1,900 fine, but $650. And I get, I get it. Safety in school zones is paramount, and and I expect the fine in a school zone for speeding to be higher than the average 15
absolutely.
Kilometers or 20 kilometers out on the highway, maybe. But I am surprised that it's $650.
The other thing is, this fine was. The ticket was from November 11th, 2025.
Yeah, so I know that they said a little while ago, I can't remember how long ago, that they were going to send out like $3.2 million worth of speeding tickets to residents that were caught on the radar, on the webcam speed system. So you're $650 of that. But I wonder with that $650, how much of that is coming back to the province? As an example, your speeding ticket, let's just say it might have been $250 or $300. Is the rest of it fees? Is it the rest of the cost of the program? Is it maintenance of the cameras? What are you paying for when you get a ticket with a radar like that, as opposed to a police officer just pulling you over somewhere? If you would, I don't know, been up by Gonzaga and done it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
You know, like if you're speeding in Gonzaga, it's cheaper than it is speeding on Waterford Bridge Road.
Exactly.
Right?
And the thing that bothers me the most is that this company, Ontario, has all of our information. They've got the cameras on our license number, so they can go online, even look up all of your information, even your banking stuff, and you know, full access. And this is not a private site.
Yeah, and these cameras for speed radar are going up in a number of different places around the province. I was talking to somebody that was in the business of installing, and they were out on the West Coast installing. I don't know if they're up and running or not, but different places around the province, and I think the province said that they were doing it on their roads first.
Yes,
and
yeah.
I know Waterford Bridge Road was one of the places in St. John's, and I think there was a place in Mount Pearl as well. I can't remember. I know they were part of the pilot project that showed that there was a lot of speeding going on. But $650, we ought to get an answer to this from the province. Find out what you paid for, how much of it was fine, and if it's not on camera, is it cheaper to speed somewhere else? Does that make any sense at all? None to me.
Well, it is on camera. They sent me a picture of it, but they showed me the back of my car on Waterford Lane Road, and they said it happened at 4:30 p.m., but it's dark out in the picture.
Yeah.
It's not dark here at 4:30. Like, I had my lights on. It was pitch black.
Yeah, so you may be able to contest that one. Do they give you a court date or anything like that, or you just...
I can go to court and fight it, and which I will do. But in the meantime, it's just so annoying. Like, this is our everyday life that we're going in front of these cameras, you know. Yeah,
no, and look, they've taken them out of Ontario in a lot of places. Hey, because of situations probably like this, the cost, the annoyance, and I know in some places don't do it because it's a political nightmare. And if you're getting $650 fines for going off Waterford Bridge Road, needless to say, I'm not condoning you speeding in a school zone. That's a no-no. You know that, right?
Well, I have two small grandchildren, and I am very careful out there. I mean, I'm probably one of the most careful people. I put my car on cruise control through most of the speed limits since they told us about the cameras. So if I'm getting a ticket, I can't even imagine what's happening to everybody else.
Yeah, and no doubt. And if there's some sort of inequity, you know, if you get caught on one of these cameras, you're paying more than somebody that's in a zone that doesn't get caught on a camera. It doesn't make any sense.
That's
really.
Right.
You know, it should be built into the fines somehow so that it's equitable. It doesn't seem right to me to be speeding in one area and you pay this level of fine. You speed in another area with the exact same circumstances, same speed, you know, same surrounding style, and all of a sudden your ticket's more. We'll find out now. We'll get a hold of government to see what they say about this and how this breaks down and breaks out, because
and can you find out about the privacy issue? Like, I can't even, like, the Ministry of Transport guy told me to go to the website. The website isn't even secure. It says this is not a private site. I can't even go to it. So
we'll check it out.
Issue that concerns me.
And look, if you go to court, let the VOCM newsroom know. I'm sure that they'd be interested to see how that plays out in court. Okay, so I think have we lost Kathy, Dave? Yeah, okay, so we've lost Kathy. But Kathy, if you're still listening and you go into provincial court and if you do want to fight this, let the VOCM newsroom know. I'm sure they'd be interested to see how this plays out. So there's something interesting. $650 fine for speeding. It was in a school zone. You shouldn't be at that. But is that the price of speeding everywhere in school zones? I'm not sure. We're going to see if the newsroom can find that out for us. Okay, Dave, we're getting close on our first break. Did you want to go there and we'll come back with a caller? All right, so we're going to break. You're listening to Open Line. I'm your host, Darren Bent. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Okay, we're back on Open Line, and we just had a caller call in about the video or photo speeding ticket that she received, and one listener called in or sent a note in saying that she thought she heard the woman say that, Kathy, I believe, say that this happened on November 11th. If it did, it's a stat holiday, and of course, a stat holiday, there's no school, and if there's no school, the actual speed in school zones changes back to whatever the regular speed is. That may also impact the ticket as well. So anyways, if you're listening, Kathy, you might want to just check that out in case it was a November 11th. All right. We are going to go to the former mayor of the town of Marystown on line 8, and I have Brian Keaton. Brian, good morning. Welcome to Open Line.
Thank you very much for having me on this morning. I'll try not to take too much of your time, but I got two very important issues that's when you're talking about community safety. I kind of fed off the missus that said she was speeding in the zone. So you're talking about community safety. As you know, when I was running for Presidential West Bellevue District, I measured and visited a lot of the communities through the district, all of them actually. And one of the biggest complaints I've received while I was there and witnessed myself driving in the nighttime, early in the morning, was the growth on the side of the roads. And safety does a lot of things, from crime to potholes and everything. But a lot of the communities from Chance Cove, Terranceville, Bay Largent, Spanish Room, John the Bay, have in the summertime, right now, the bushes and the alders that grow up on the side of the roads, make those side roads and the smaller communities on the peninsula especially grow in, and makes it very unsafe to be driving. So that's a very big safety issue, and a lot of people are still reaching out to me now and saying, Brian, remember when we were talking about the safety? We're having issues not getting no confirmation that they're going to do the brush clearing in our communities. I just wanted to reach out and tell the people I'm still reaching out. I'm going to be reaching out to our MHA again this week and try to get some answers on. But right now, and I'll use Chance Cove and Grand Lapeer and Rossune and Bain Harbor especially. Last year, their road was down to one lane. They have one lane. You got school buses driving those roads, and we all know those one lanes and all those smaller communities have a lot of potholes and stuff, which is a big safety issue. We know crime is a big safety issue, but, you know, you got seniors out walking, they're right on the road, there's no shoulders.
Yeah, Brian, can I ask you, when you say you're down to one lane, was that for construction work, or is it just washed out?
No, it was down to one lane because the alders were growing in so much on both sides of the road. You actually had to drive the center of your vehicle was right on the yellow line because the alders would be scratching your vehicle, and you just couldn't drive on your own side of the road. And I came down from Chance Cove one particular night myself, and the road was there. A lady come around the turn, and me and her almost clicked each other because there was only one lane. She didn't want to go in the altar. She had a beautiful vehicle, and I was driving. Maybe I was a little on her lane too because of the altars there. It's a very big issue for this, the whole Newfoundland Labrador, not just my district. But, you know, the government is talking about community safety. There's more than safety than crime. Crime definitely needs to be an issue dealt with. But the conditions of the roads right now, where we're in the early spring of the year now, you can actually see the guardrails and stuff. Now you can get the opportunity to do the altars and clean up the sides of the road before they grow in. Because once they grow in, it's a whole lot more expensive, a whole lot harder to do the cleanup on. And I'll be honest, that is one big issue for this whole district. I think it's a big district for issue for all Newfoundland Labrador, but it can be fixed fairly quickly and inexpensively this time of the year compared to trying to do it in the summertime when you don't know where the guardrails are because they're grown in, you can't see them. And people are nervous because they can't go out for a walk, they can't go drive on the road in the nighttime, they can't even get around their neighborhoods. Most roads going into, like I said, Chance Cove, Bain Harbor, Rossune, Terranceville, they go down to one lane in the middle of the summer because the altars are growing out in the road so much.
Yeah, so Brian, have you spoken to the MHA in the area about this to see if there's going to be some work done? I know, and I'm assuming like you're talking about places that fall fully under the provincial jurisdiction and not like within a community that would have the right and ability to cut back that sort of thing. These are alders out of the ditches that correlate with the way the road is developed.
Most definitely. 99% of them are provincial roads and all these smaller communities leading into them for sure. So, yeah, I'm going to reach out to our MHA and And this week again, like I said, this has been an issue. Both of me, myself and him, he had to witness it, of course, when he was going around during the election as well. And it was brought up to me, so I'm sure it was brought up to him. So that is one big issue. But another issue that brings us back to the road conditions and locations in rural Newfoundland is the town of Terranceville and Grand Lapeer and English Harbour and those places. As you heard, NTV had a series on about the ambulance service there. Everybody knows that the ambulance service in Terranceville and that area in Grand Lapeer has been having issues for not since the PCs got in. It was there when the Liberals were there. So there's a lot of fault or a lot of undecisions being made for that rural part of Newfoundland. And I'm sure it's happening in other parts of Newfoundland and Labrador as well. But the old saying and the new saying or whatever saying you want to use, the golden hours to get someone to the hospital within an hour. Well, right now, last year, when I was at campaign, there was actually a lady that passed away in her daughter's arms in the town of Terranceville while she was waiting for an ambulance. Not only about then, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, there was a gentleman in the same area that had to wait an hour and a half for the ambulance to get to him. And, of course, unfortunately, he didn't make it to his destination because that would have been a round trip of 3 hours. So I just want all MHAs, either you be Liberal, PC, or NDP, I want you to keep some of the promises you made to these people. Terranceville was told there was going to be an ambulance reevaluation and get an ambulance in that area for those people. I was talking to the mayor of Terranceville last week, and she said, Brian, now they said they looked at it as not in the budget. Well, you know what? I'll say this to all politicians, and I was a politician being a former mayor of Marystown. If you're going to make a promise to the people, at least work as hard as to make that promise come true. But don't ever make false promises to all the citizens and residents of this area of Newfoundland and Labrador, because you know what? People do believe you during election time. Just be up straight and forward. But like I said, that got nothing to do with the situation now. The situation is they're talking about safety, ambulance services safety, and the conditions of the roads and the altars are safety issues that they can inexpensively try to repair. Yeah,
and Brian, the ambulance, that issue is not just Terranceville and your area, of course. It's all across the province. And, we've heard all kinds of stories over the years and even in recent times of, long waits and, service, availability, and all these different things. And, of course, it's put some people in some real hard positions. And, of course, you get other first responders that show up maybe before an ambulance, and it's difficult for them as well because they need the ambulance there. I understand there's a review being done on some of the service, and hopefully we'll see a better outcome for ambulance service going forward. But Brian, thank you for raising that. We appreciate it, and maybe we'll see some cutting along the roads this summer in a lot of places around the province. I know it seems to make a difference out there on the highway going across the province. It's nice to be able to have a bit of a wider view in many areas now that they've cut the alders and every other thing back from the road. So safety, you got to be able to see, and the roads have got to be able to be clear for you for sure. So thank you, Brian. You take care.
Just one more quick team. One more quick team before I go. I want to say it's not the paramedics. It's not the ambulance service. No. It's the lack of it, and our healthcare professionals in this province are second to none.
No, absolutely.
My hat is off to them.
Absolutely, they do yeoman service and more than they need to sometimes. Thank you, Brian. You have a good day. Next up, I'm going to, I believe, line 5, and it's Pat. And Pat, just hold on, I'm getting you there. Are you there, Pat?
Yes, I'm there, Brent. Thank you very much. Continuing somewhat along the first line of what Kathy was this morning, tied into some degree, because with that, it was all being done out of Ontario, private companies exactly. For me, it's blood work in particular, but other services in the healthcare system. I would like the Liberal government or someone in the House to ask, because the PCs, when the Liberals were accused of trying to do this, the PCs were chirping at them like anything, saying, oh, you're trying to privatize health care, the seniors, people on fixed incomes, they can't afford all of this to go and pay $50, $100 to have their blood work done each time they need it. What are you doing? It seems now the PCs are totally bent on that. I have a person that I know, I didn't believe them at the time. Thought they were foolish. Something's wrong here. They called April 7th to get blood work done. We're told call us back April 27th, ma'am. We can't give you an appointment now, and they need it so they can get other things done.
Pat, what area of the province is this?
The person was calling for to get blood work done in St. John's.
Okay. And blood work can be done in a number of different places now, and you can actually, I think there's places around now that you can pay $25. They'll do your blood for you today.
Exactly. That's what I've had to do to get blood work recently myself. I've had to pay, and other people that I know, they're forcing you almost off. If you need it done within a month's time, to get other work done, you end up having to pay for it. And I would like someone to ask the government, is this their intended plan? Is this what they're trying to do? Privatize health care without telling us?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd stretch it that far with regards to the blood. It's been around for a long time, being able to go to a private provider with nurses that take their blood and provide it to the hospitals. And of course, around St. John's, there are certainly at least two places. Health Sciences still does it. I think that the hospital up in the East End does it now. And I think you can do drop-in, if I'm not mistaken. But you shouldn't have to wait long to get blood work done, regardless, and you shouldn't be forced to pay. It should be an option, I suppose, if people believe in that, and I certainly do sometimes. I don't live in St. John's, but I live close to a place that does it, so the rare time I do need it, I save myself the gas trouble and the time and get it done locally, but I have had it done at the Health Sciences Center, of course, and years ago down at the Waterford Hospital, but not as quickly. But certainly, I got it done. I didn't have to pay for it.
Well, let me give you another one with regards to this, which is.
Pat, I'll tell you what. I've been a bad boy this week and going past my breaks a long time. We're a minute past the break here now. I'm going to go today. You want to hold on, Pat? I'll come back to you for a minute so you can clue up. And
I'll do that. Thanks.
Yeah, you just hold on there. We'll come back to you. And Dave, you can go to your break there now. Well, welcome back to Open Line. I'm your host, Darren Bent, and we have Pat on the line. I think, Pat, are you still on the line?
Yes, Dave.
Perfect. So, Pat, I'll give you a minute to sum up. You had another matter you wanted to talk about?
We started to mention one other thing. But anyway, with regard to continuing what we were, with blood work, let me give you even something that a nurse to me, and if you get math, you'll find this really funny. Anyway, so for blood work that I need, and I didn't want to pay the money, and I didn't want to wait for a month for it at one time. So go in and see, and the managers are telling you, no, we won't take any walk-in, even if you need this done in advance, you can't get it done before having it booked. No, not going to happen. This nurse pops her head out and overrides her manager. And when I get inside, she says, "Oh, don't worry about any of that. I'm looking at 25 years. I'm not going to get in no trouble." Anyway, I said, "What's all this about?" And apparently, like you said, okay, and let them on in. I'm only here twiddling my thumbs. She said, under the old system, when we were booking, you go for your blood work, you went during lunch hours, early morning, some people before work, pick the number off the wall and they call your number, days before you had to call in and pre-book it. She said, we used to do roughly, you had 10, 12 an hour, so 5 minutes. But so you can do blood work depending on how much is on the form, and even less than 5 minutes if you're trained and experienced. But she said, that's reasonable. So 10, 12 people an hour. Right now, we're booking only 10 minutes you have to do the blood work on that patient. Then you see the next patient, the next patient. So she said, I get 3 minutes, 4 minutes, I get your blood work done. I'm just twiddling my thumbs for 6 or 8 minutes doing nothing. It's not efficient anymore. So I had to totally laugh at that because, her boss was furious. She said, oh, no, we don't have an appointment. I'm here twiddling my thumbs. Let them in. My God, if there's another 3 or 4 people you have there that need blood work.
And where was that, Pat? Where was that?
That was in Carbonell.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah. All right. Well,
is this, I would appreciate also if the Liberals would look into and address that to the minister. Okay, guys, if you're not intending to privatize this, why in the hell are you not managing it more efficiently? Because the system can be managed a lot more efficiently than it's being managed. Anyway, David, Brent, I wanted to just mention one thing in your opening preamble, you did mention the Stanley Cup will be starting on Saturday.
I did. I jumped down that rabbit hole. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a Canadians fan, and I wasn't very old at the time. I don't remember a great lot of it, but I do remember the statistics, and I do remember, even though I'd possibly be young, I'm not going to say how young, but it was young. I do remember Guy Lafleur in his heyday.
Yeah, no, I do too. I was young as well, but I do remember Guy Lafleur. He was the hottest thing in the late 70s for sure. Passed away not that long ago, but he did it, I think, 2 or 3 times he hit 50 goals for the Montreal in their big time between 76 and 80 when they had 5 in a row for sure. Anyways, Pat, I'm going to say good morning to you. I've got other callers on the line, and thank you for raising the blood issue, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about it coming in the coming days for sure. So you take care and have a good morning.
I just want to say one thing on that.
Okay. You go ahead.
Lane Hudson, because the other 2 people are off our defenseman. Lane Hudson is being used on the penalty kill. Guys, when the playoffs start, penalty killing. So if you if you're taking a penalty and Tampa Bay is on, their experienced team, penalty killing in the playoffs is a whole different matter. Guys get ran. Guys get picked.
We're going to find out how tough they are in the playoffs. They've been pretty good in the regular season, but as many teams have found out, a good regular season does not always mean a good playoff run. Pat, you have a good morning. We're going to go now to line 3, and on line 3, I am welcoming and the long title Shadow Minister for Justice and Public Safety, Emergency Preparedness, and Disaster Management, Pam Parsons. How are you this morning?
Hi. Well, good morning, Darren Benson. It's nice to hear your voice on the airwaves again. It's good. You're doing a great job. Enjoying listening to Open Line, of course. So good morning to you and all your listeners. And I wanted to call in today to talk about, I attended a meeting last night here in my district, Harbour Grace, Portagrave district, down in Bishop's Cove with the council. And one of the very important topics that took much of the agenda and much discussion, and there was engagement as well from citizens who came out to take in the meeting, as well as the fire chief from Upper Island Cove, Mr. Harvey Mercer, was present, and to talk about fire safety and fire preparedness. As we know what we experienced throughout the province just last summer, particularly on the North Shore in Conception Bay North, which is literally the neighboring district to mine. We saw what those people went through, the devastation, and each and every firefighter, how they put their lives on the line, not just from the local detachments, of course, here, but every department in Harbour Grace, Portagrave also attended the blaze, as well as firefighters from across the province. So we know the severity of that. So that was very important last night, and just, talking about how residents can also just even prepare their homes, not having debris outside, and knowing how to properly dispose of batteries, etc. And even having those solar lights around your yard, I mean, they have batteries, which could be indeed a fire hazard. So hats off to them. And just last week, Darren, actually it was last Friday, here in our district, we had two wildfires happening at once. There was one that started in Bishop's Cove that burned all the way up to the border in Upper Island Cove. So that, and only for the wind was blowing a certain way, according to the fire chief last night, that could have gone, that could have been much worse than what it was. So thankfully for those wind conditions, but that said, it was extremely windy.
Yeah, and we saw that in a couple of places too, Pam. And of course, you know, it's something that we're all acute to now. And when you talk about the being prepared as a homeowner, it's always good to pay attention to some of the new programming that's offered out through the firefighters. You know, I believe there's Fire Smart and Fire Fit and all these different things. And municipalities need to share the information with their residents. You know, I even heard last year, you know, people that are putting compost around shrubs and stuff up against their house, not a good idea. You know, the bark and that sort of thing on top of the compost is actually a fire hazard. So, you know, there's all kinds of things we're learning about fire safety that we never thought we'd have to, but here we are. It's a reality now, isn't it?
It certainly is a reality now, and you're right. You know, it was a big eye-opener. I mean, wildfires are not just something that are happening in other provinces or other countries. You know, climate change is real. It's happening here, and as we know, we're gearing up now. As you mentioned, I am the Shadow Minister for Fire and Emergency Services and Emergency Preparedness, so I am certainly calling on the Minister and the Department. You know, there's a lot of applications that go in each and every year, and every MHA would be well-versed on this. Every department, of course, applies for funding, whether that's for bunker gear, different sorts of gear such as helmets, coveralls, and even fire trucks. And I mean, we do have those applications in every department. And I want to give them a heartfelt thank you for the Bay Roberts Fire Rescue, Spaniards Bay Tilton Fire Department, Upper Island Cove, which is also responsible for Bishop's Cove and Bryant's Cove, as well as the Harbour Grace Volunteer Fire Brigade. You know, they do outstanding work, and they all work together, Darren. You know, if there's a call, if there's an emergency on the Veterans Memorial Highway, if there's a health condition that someone's calling, someone's having an episode in their home. I mean, these first responders they're responding to everything. It's not simply fires. They're there and they're at the ready 24/7. So I always say we sleep easier at night knowing that these men and women are there. So a heartfelt thank you for them. And of course, I'm always advocating for resources for my departments. We do have some applications in. I did have a conversation and some correspondence with the minister on that. I'll be certainly following up, but just, you know, advocating for the equipment that these men and women need to do the job safely that they're doing on behalf of each and every one of us in all of our communities, as well as our infrastructures. Also,
yeah, and they do work really well together. And one of the things I was amazed last year, of course, my community had fire on both ends, and nothing like the devastation our friends over in Conception Bay North on the North Shore suffered, of course. But you know, when we needed help, fire departments that weren't in danger at the time were sending supplies, and they were sending pumper trucks, and they were sending water tankers and all this different stuff, you know. So we knew we had friends, and I know when the call came out in Conception Bay North, the fire department, CBS, and other fire departments around the Northeast Avalon and across the province sent people there to help out as best they could, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And you know, it's great to know that it's actually happening. Sometimes you hear things, oh yeah, it should work like this or should work like that, but actually they do work really well together.
They are. You said it right. I mean, they are to be commended because they work as a huge team. We had fire departments from across the province that were helping out with CBN wildfires. We also know that we had the town of Holyrood. Part of Holyrood was evacuated. We know what we experienced there and how the people came very quickly. But again, it's a team effort here. And just those wildfires that we had, or what could have been a bad wildfire, but it was contained. According to the fire chief last night, there were several. There were Spaniards Bay attended, Harbour Grace Department attended. They even have Carbonear came up, as well as Upper Island Cove. Of course, were on the scene. It was in their jurisdiction. So they do certainly work together. And so as many of the resources that we can get for these people, they have our full support. And this is not political. Those firefighters, when they're going out to put the strap up, ultimately to lay their life on the line, they're not political. So, I'm really hoping that we see fair distribution of the resources and the funding. We do know that we had a big allocation by Global Medics, with a private company, of course, that provided fire skids to a number of detachments across the province. We know that there's a round 2 coming up. I know my departments have all applied for these fire skids, as well as many. So hopefully we look forward to seeing that and to welcoming those donations.
Pam, I'm a mile past my break now, so if you're good, we'll move on. If you had something else important you wanted to say, we can come back after the break. You let me know.
Well, I'm good, but one thing I will say in conclusion, there's an event at St. Paul's Church Hall in Harbour Grace for a fundraiser for the Convention Day Museum. It's on April 24th with music and acting and a lot of local talent. So come on out and support the local museum. And Darren, I look forward to our next call. Hopefully you'll be sticking around, and we'll chat again soon.
Thanks, Pam. Going to break. Dave, we'll be back in a moment. Okay, we're back on Open Line. I'm your host, Darren Bent. We're going to line 3. Line 3.
Hi.
Hi, you're on.
Hi, Darren. I just wanted to call and ask a question of the public. Going through drive-thrus, are people offended at the fact that there are young people, old people asking for money? And you kind of feel trapped going through the drive-thrus now. It's I find it somewhat upsetting, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I've never seen it happen myself, but I'm no doubt it is. It's just something that I see at intersections and so forth, and it goes back.
The intersections I'm kind of used to, but now it's like they're actually approaching you in your car. It's like at the end of drive-through when you're not carrying on, at the speed limit, you're just moving along at like 1 or 2 miles an hour. It's like, so again, your window is still open from getting your coffee or whatever in the drive-through, and it's like the people that are working there, they're missing out on their tip in some cases because the person is asking for it in front of them.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't know. Should it be the business's responsibility?
Well,
to
you would think, though, wouldn't you? Because, I remember years ago, and this is like years ago, there was a store near me, and, of course, there'd be a group of young people hanging out outside the store. They'd get whatever they wanted inside, and they'd hang out by the door, and the owners would come out and go, look, guys, move away from the door,
Exactly.
move whatever, and they would, of course. And nowadays, we're seeing more of this sort of thing, around different businesses outside of places you walk into, and if it makes you feel uncomfortable, then you'd think that it would be the business would want to make sure that their customers feel comfortable in the situation. But there's probably a reluctance to get involved too. Hey.
And exactly, but the other thing is going to even banks now. They have, people that are opening the door for you and ultimately wanting to have money for it, asking for them opening the door and asking you to have a good day. Going into a bank, obviously somebody is either going to pay a bill or to get money, so it's like they assume you have money and then they, pull this face when you're going out if you're not giving them some money.
Yeah, and it's a changing time here in our province, isn't it? Because I remember probably 20 years ago, I happened to be out in Vancouver for a convention, and I didn't know how to get around much, and one of the things they had was a monorail that took you from downtown, away from the downtown, and we wanted to get on it, and there was a fellow stood there next to the machine, and he says, I can help you with that, where do you want to go? And we accepted the help, of course, because we didn't know how to work the machine, put the money in, got our tickets, but he was there for a tip. Right, he was that's how he was getting his money, and we thought it was a great service. But you're not talking about people providing services. You're talking about people where you're spending money, businesses
asking for money.
Yeah, that you're choosing to support this business because you like their products and that, and you don't feel as a customer that that's something the business should be allowing. I would suspect this is a business thing. I would also suspect that there may be a reluctancy to get involved in doing anything, but the people a lot of times in businesses, especially chain businesses and that are not the people in charge of the business, but they should report.
Right.
It's something they should report to their people so that maybe there's some effort that they can do, and maybe whatever municipality it happens to be, there's something that they can work in coalition with to try to ensure that customers don't feel that, I don't know about threatened, but certainly awkward and uneasy for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. I was just curious how other people felt about that. It's like it's going on everywhere. But again, to go through a drive-through now to get a product and, within seconds away from the drive-through window is somebody asking you for money, and they're looking you straight in the face. It's not like they're, a distance away. So you're feeling quite awkward.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing it up, caller. And it's something that if anybody wants to call in about maybe their experience and so forth, maybe they've had the pleasure of talking to a business about something like this that's caused them some issues. But anyway, I appreciate your call this morning. I don't know what you got at the drive-through, but enjoy it. Enjoy your morning. And I'll let you go and have a great day.
If I could just make one more point, though, Darren. Recently, also at a big box store, in the evening when it was dark, someone came up to the window also asking for money. That also is very upsetting. It's like, I know that a big box store, they probably can't patrol or have security, if you will, in a big parking lot, but it's gotten to that point now, so it's very upsetting.
Well, I'm going to tell you a story now, and I know it kind of pertains, it kind of doesn't, but a friend of mine, he collects batteries to turn into recycle, and he drops them off at the Staples location up on, I think it's Kelsey Drive, up off of Kenmount Road. One day, he went up to there, and please don't. I won't mention your name, so don't kill me if I. But I'm going to make this story public. He went up. He had an old coffee can that he put his batteries in, and he takes them up. He dumps them out. He was waiting for his wife, who happened to be down to the Sobeys store. He walks outside the store. He was a smoker at the time. He sets his can down on the ground, lights up his cigarette, and the first person by dropped money in the can. So he was like, no, right? So we're getting kind of used to this sort of thing, maybe, and we're ready to help. And of course, if we're ready to help, it continues, doesn't it?
But it's also, just to add to this, it's probably not the same discussion, but in going through those big box stores, especially during holidays, at Christmas, if you will, you've got like people behind you in the cash queue there, and the first thing that the person asks you is like, would you like to donate to this or that? And not everybody wants to. Not everybody is good. They've probably given 3 other times the same day. And when you say no, not at this time, it's like, I don't know about anybody else. I just feel somewhat uncomfortable or awkward.
Yeah, and I'm gonna thank you again for calling, because we're coming hard on to a break, and appreciate you raising it as an issue. There's probably other people out there that feel uncomfortable as well. There's probably other people out there that go, come on, boy, look, give them a hand. There's people that are, if they're doing this, they need to do it, and they need the supports.
Sure.
So we'll listen to hear what we hear from other folks. So thank you for calling, and appreciate the information. It's 10 o'clock. I'm only 4 seconds behind Dave. Go to the news. Welcome back to Open Line. I'm your host, Darren Bent. And one of our listeners sent a note in talking about the blood work issue that was brought up earlier, and how long it takes, and the process for getting it, and was really concerned about not being able to get through to people to make bookings with the system. And the online process takes at least 3 days or so just to get through. So that's a difficult thing, because as we all know, our medical practitioners can't do very much to help if they don't have the blood work. So if there's other issues with the blood work and the collection and maybe the time frame, one gentleman said they're only taking 6 an hour now, which is kind of a slow process. I've seen rooms where, up at Majors Path and so forth, where they were putting them through pretty quickly in a number of lines. So if that's changed, if that's your experience, let us know. I am going now, and I'm going now to Toby on line 1. And Toby, thank you for your patience. I know you've been sitting there for a while. Welcome to Open Line.
Thank you very much, and no worries about the patience. I just got a call about the speed cameras.
Yes, sir.
The lady that was on earlier, she said she got a ticket on November 11th from them. Now, in that specific area, if I heard correct, it was Waterford Bridge Road area. That school zone turns to a 50 after 5 during school days, or if there's no school, so November 11th will be Remembrance Day, that shouldn't classify as a school zone, so she would be able to fight that. The only other thing is, I did hear you mention that someone said school zones change after 5. That's only if there's a little sign saying the time. So like here in Mount Pearl, there's 2 school zones that's 8:30 all day long, doesn't matter the time or if there's school or not.
Yeah, and I know that it's different, I think, in for provincial roads and municipal roads, and some of them have to conform, I think, to the province. I know the province requires, and if I'm not mistaken, 7:30 to 5 in their zones goes down to, I think, 30. And I didn't want to say, and I mentioned after about November 11th that the person was listening. Yeah, absolutely. But I didn't want to say that it goes back to 50 because I'm not sure if Waterford Bridge Road ever goes to 50. Maybe it's 40 in all the time, but I don't frequent the area. But it is 50, is it?
It is, yeah. And the provincial one is actually supposed to, because they put out a new legislation in the beginning of this school year. All provincial road signs are supposed to be from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Yeah, I think that's the change from the 7:30, right?
Yeah. It did, yeah. Because I know through St. John's it said 7:30, but then they corrected it to 7.
Yeah, I heard the mayor on earlier, a few months ago, saying that they had to update the signs because of the change, and they wanted to make sure they were conforming with the provincial rules. And I know that hasn't happened everywhere yet, because I know in my town it still says 7:30 to 5 during school days. But you're right, like during Easter break when school is closed, it's no longer a 30 zone. It goes back to whatever the school or the regular zone is, 50 or 40. Or whatever it happens to be. You're right.
The only other issue I have with the speed cameras is I got no issue with them, like if you catch speeders, fine, but they don't take a picture of the driver. Now, the argument was that we don't have front license plates, but say, for example, you're driving my car and you get a ticket, I'm the one that gets the ticket because it's my car. And I can't fight it and say, hey, this is clearly not me in the picture, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that's always a concern. But there's a lot we got to learn about these cameras, these speed cameras, and how they're going to roll out, and how they work, and how much they're costing us, and is it being applied fairly across the board? I think that's a big issue now with her ticket.
100%.
We're not sure if that's what you'd get if you were up on Gonzaga or down by McDonald Drive or wherever. Would you get $6.50, or are there extra costs added into your ticket because it is a camera? So we got to find that out for sure.
Yeah,
anything else this morning?
If it was
go ahead.
If it was November 11th, she shouldn't have got a ticket for that.
No, not that much. Anyways, if it's reduced by the speed you're over, she wasn't over by as much. If it goes back to the 50 in the area, for sure. Thank you, Toby.
Yeah. So one thing, the rule for them cameras, actually, I only know this because I'm a driving instructor, so I deal with it all the time. The rule for them cameras, if you could do 10 over without getting a ticket. This is what the government announced. You do 10 over without getting a ticket, but 11 over, you get a ticket. So if she was doing 52, I think she claimed, she shouldn't have got a ticket anyways.
Yeah, and of course, I think there's points and stuff that are attached to every 10 kilometers. So there certainly used to be back years ago, and I don't think that's changed much. But yeah, so she should look into that for sure.
She should, yeah.
Anybody else listening too that's getting a ticket, because there's I don't know how many tickets they said they were handing out, but $3.2 million worth of them. So I'm sure there's lots of people out there with tickets that are going, is this right? Is this not right? Some people have got them and going, yeah, okay, they got me. So there it is. We'll see.
100%.
All right, my friend. You take care. Thanks for calling. Appreciate it, Toby. Okay, where are we going now, Dave? Line 6, yes. And we have Julia Lewis on from the Better Business Bureau, and you are the Atlantic President and CEO. Julia, welcome to Open Line. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Well, now, you folks are warning people, the seasonal issue, of course. Everybody's out there looking to do some upgrades to their homes, whether it's inside, a lot of it outside, and so forth. And they have to find a reputable person to do that work, and somebody that they can depend on that's actually going to not just show up, but actually finish the job when they get started into it. And we've heard all kinds of horror stories out there about people that have been caught in the middle of a job, spent a lot of money, never got what they thought they were getting, and all of that. And look there are lots and lots of absolutely stellar builders and craftspeople that do fantastic work. But there's always that one out there that gets people's ire up, of course, and it's left them with a mess and a bill. And Julia, you're going to help us along with what we should be looking for.
I am. So once you've, kind of nailed down the home project or renovation that you're going to kind of start shopping around for, the first thing that we tell you to do is what we always tell people to do is the research. Start looking for contractors in your area. You can do that on our website, or you can do that through a simple online search. Start looking for contractors in your area and start looking for reviews, start looking for complaints, information about them. And then once you've kind of narrowed it down to a few that you think you might want to work with, then you're going to want to start, getting in contact with them and looking for quotes. So we always tell people that when they're shopping around for a contractor or a roofer or whatever the case may be, they ask for multiple quotes, usually a minimum of 3. And in addition to that quote, you want to review their previous work. You want to ask them for references because, those are the, so you have your quotes, you know the cost, what things are going to look like in terms of the money you're going to be spending, but you do also want to see the work. So you can ask them for references. You can speak to past clients and customers to try to get a sense for how their project went. And then I would say the most important, or one of the most important things, is after you have decided on a contractor, is getting everything in writing. So getting that contract. And in terms of getting the contract, you do want to have, a checklist of things to look for in that contract. So you want the business contact info, the project timeline, scope of work, any costs, warranties, payment schedule, termination clauses. And then another important one is like licensing, insurance, and permits. So you do want to, make sure that those are there, but then you do also want to verify those. So depending on the province you're in, you can do a search to see what licensing or permits may be required in your area. We can also help you with that. We vet all of that when we're accrediting businesses, so we know where to look and what to look for.
Well, this is a subject matter that people I know are really interested in this morning. Julia, I'm going to ask you to just hold on if you could, because we got to go to break. I'd like to come back to you with a few more questions and some more information to help people along this spring. Thank you. We'll be just back. Thanks, Dave. Welcome back to Open Line. I'm your host, Darren Bent, and we have on the line Julia Lewis with the Better Business Bureau. And Julia, people that want to get work done in the spring now are getting planned up. It's a big project. They're excited about it. It's a home improvement. It improves the place where they live, and then something goes wrong. You must have heard some horror stories of people calling in over the years.
Right, definitely. And it usually ends up being people who, haven't done their research on the particular contractor that they're going to be using, or a lot of the times we have reports of, because this time of year contractors know that people are wanting to have work done, so they'll show up at your door, right? They'll show up at your door and tell you that maybe your driveway needs to be repaved, and you think, okay, it does, and then they're looking for, we can start the work tomorrow, please pay us up front. And so they're entering into these agreements without a contract, without doing their research. They pay out a hefty deposit, a lot of the times in cash, and then that contractor never comes back. So they're out the money that they've laid out.
If it seems like too good of a deal and seems like it's going to be too easy, always ask questions for sure. Julia, I see it all the time through the socials feed. Hey, I need someone to build my deck. Who's good and who's cheap on the socials? Right. Is that a good way to vet people through the court of public opinion?
It may be a good idea for, a couple of names to then go ahead and do your additional research on. But oftentimes going for that kind of cheapest quote or lowest number is not always the best way to go, because in the long run you end up, having work that's not satisfactory, so you end up having to have the work done again, which ends up costing you more. Or you get into situations like I had mentioned where you pay out a deposit and there's no contract and the work's not going how you thought it was going to go. And so it just ends up costing you in the long run. So that's why that kind of 3-quote method is usually the best. And then, maybe sometimes that lowest quote, is the best option as long as they're checking all the other boxes, but it shouldn't be the only factor when you're deciding to have work done.
Yeah, so there's lots of reputable people out there that do fantastic work, and that's where you want to get sorted to, getting multiple estimates, checking credentials, and getting everything in writing is the message from the Better Business Bureau on this issue. And Julie, if I may, we've talked a little bit this week, and of course last week, and over the last year we've heard a lot about it. AI, is anybody coming to you, the Better Business Bureau, with concerns about AI or their privacy or anything that may be happening with regards to that? Are you hearing anything?
I mean, it's definitely a concern. Like where we see it showing up the most are in like social engineering attacks. So that's when someone impersonates someone else or they pretend to be from a trusted organization. Because with AI, scammers or cyber criminals, they're able to use AI-generated images, videos, and they look really real. And in some cases, they're even able to impersonate voices and that type of thing. So that for the most part, that's where we see it showing up. So, the AI tools are very sophisticated and they're becoming even more sophisticated. And they're also able to, like in terms of like, let's say a business email compromise scam, they're able to search, analyze, and they can mimic examples of individuals like writing styles and behaviors, and then send emails out to either people within a business or, just individuals. So just the tools are very sophisticated, and it's allowing them to, I guess, take on a level of impersonation that they previously have not been able to accomplish.
Yeah, so that leaves businesses vulnerable as well, especially if they're sending us something that looks exactly like it would come from the business. It's always good to check the actual where it's coming from specifically, and and it's good to check with the business as well. Have you heard from businesses that have seen things like this happen?
We have, we have had reports of business email compromise scams. We received them ourselves. Like a lot of the times they'll come in as, so they kind of take two sides. Sometimes they're phishing for information, so looking for login, passwords, that type of thing. And then the other side of it is they're impersonating vendors. So they're looking, they'll send you something that looks like an invoice. And it's not, and you pay that, and then, your money's gone, and potentially your credit card or whatever information you've used is also compromised.
Yeah, that's it's hard to fight against, and it's hard to defend yourself against a lot of this, but we have to question just about everything that we see like that, especially it comes through electronically, and it's not something that we are aware of in advance that would be coming through. I know I've made purchases, and then you see something come through from the place you've made a purchase that looks like it's coming from them, but it's somebody trying to get more money out of you because you've already done some sort of purchase. Something went wrong, and it's not true. But for businesses, it must be really concerning, and it must make your job that much tougher to keep on top of as well, I suppose.
It is, for sure. And I mean, we do have we have bbb.org/AI. You can go to that website, and we do have tips for, how to identify a fake email and how to identify a fake website. So, just kind of educating yourself, I guess, on things to look out for is helpful for everybody.
Well, Julia, thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate the tips, sage advice for sure, and hopefully we can avoid as much of the scamming and the getting businesses that aren't as reputable or people that aren't as reputable trying to do business, and the awareness is really key. Thank you for spreading that awareness and giving these tips this morning. Julia Lewis, Better Business Bureau. She's the Atlantic President and CEO. Thank you, and have a great day.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Okay, next on Open Line, we're going to line 2, and I know, Sam, you've been waiting for a while. Welcome to Open Line.
Yes, good morning, Dan. Nice to hear your voice again back on the airways, and I got to say you're doing a fabulous job there.
All right, thanks, Sam. What are you calling about this morning? I know it's not just to talk about me.
No, calling again with food fisheries. We've been all year round right now. I contacted DFO again last week, and gets the same routine again that we're still studying the survey that we did last fall. And I says, my God almighty, how long more do you have to look at that to know and come to some common sense with it, and not leave it like you had it this past few years, just on weekends again, right? And with the stormy weather and things like that, right? A lot of times you're not getting out, and you got people waiting to book holidays around the season, right? And well, you said we just got to wait for another while. It could be another 2 or 3 weeks or longer before the decision is made, right? So I was a bit disappointed with that, right? Because I was figuring by now they would have their announcements done and some good, sensible changes put into it. Because I go out in the Bonavista area, and down there with the winds we're onto, it's beautiful most of the time, all during the week. Just like the salt water is practically like the ice. And then Friday evening comes, the wind comes up. And then you got the big laps on the water for the weekend. And a lot of times then you can't go out, or you're just taking chances going out when there's a little bit rough, not really comfortable for catching a few codfish, And if it's down to the part that where the moratorium was over, and we're hoping to get changes in, so you'll be able to catch a few more fish during the quarter, and have it 7 days a week, and then you can pick your times when you want to go out, when beautiful days. And you got the family that want to go out, because everybody don't have a boat anymore.
No,
so
and the thing about that too, Sam, is being able to plan. And do you get any sense at all? And I know I've talked to the committee, and we've had people on this week, but do you get any sense at all that they're going to do anything different this year than they did any other year?
I'm hoping they will. My God almighty, if 20,000 people this after doing the surveys and calling in the DFO and everything all the time, and the open line shows, somebody should be able to listen to us, because with a hook and line, you're not going to hurt the quotas of the fishery. No, that's another thing. The one tow with a dragger out on the banks, on the fishing grounds where they're spanning to, takes more fish than the recreation fishery, the food fishery, for the whole season, right throughout Newfoundland and Labrador. So it's so if you're there with a hook and line, you are not going to hurt the fishery. And if they think we're going to hurt the fishery, then they should have never taken the moratorium off.
Yeah. So, Sam, I got to wrap up. I got to go to break, but, it's like winter. It happens every year. So you don't wait for the first snow to prepare for winter. Certainly, fishers would, and people that want to do it recreationally, or a resident food fishery, as one gentleman called it yesterday, it should be given more notice, be able to do prepare for the year, for what is coming, and of course we're still waiting. Now it's April. You're saying maybe a few more weeks. Well, we're into May. When is it going to start? So it's frustrating. I get it. Sam, I'm going to leave it there. I've got to go to break, but I appreciate your call. If you want to call back on this again and talk about it a little bit further, please do. So, Dave, we'll go to break now, and we'll come back in just a few minutes. You're listening to Open Line. Welcome back to Open Line. I'm your host, Darren Bent. And right now on line one, I have Craig Pollitt. And Craig Pollitt's Vice President of Strategy Steps. And Professional Administrators Conference is happening in Gander. And I know when there's a Professional Administrators Conference, Craig Pollitt is not very far away. He's there to offer sage advice and assistance. And Craig, welcome to Open Line.
Thanks very much, Darren. Good to talk to you.
Good morning. So tell me, a conference like this, how important is it for administrators from around the province, municipalities, and so forth to get together and talk about what's affecting them and what's happening that's new?
Oh, it's absolutely essential, I would say. I mean, you've got, I think we're somewhere close to 160, 170 administrators here. So CAOs, town managers, town clerks, that sort of thing. And while I was waiting to come on the line with you, I was looking at their agenda again. And just the scope of things that they talk about. They're talking about mental health and wellness. They're talking about funding opportunities. They're talking about wastewater treatment. They're talking about tax sales, how to do a property tax sale properly, economic development, cybersecurity. You were just a minute ago talking about cybersecurity. There was a whole session here on cybersecurity for municipalities. All of the ways the sausage gets made, that's the stuff that the administrators work on. And it's such a scope of expertise they need to have. And they get it all here, and they get to network. They get to talk to their colleagues, because sometimes the answer to a problem you've had for years is actually been solved in the neighboring town. You just got to ask the right person. So I would say essential. It is something you need to do if you're in the sector.
Yeah, and all the things that you described there are everyday activities and everyday things that administrators have to know, have to be aware of, have to be ready for. I know you talked about wastewater. I know we've talked about pensions and so forth, and how that was a big one. Hey, and still a big one, how that's being administered and how the province is working with that, and with the requirements. But, the things you don't see in a municipality, the things you don't see driving down the road, our administrators are responsible for all of those.
Well, it's so funny, hey, because you can literally say for the senior staff, well, for all the staff in the municipality, they're behind the doing of all the stuff you see, and to your point, all the stuff you don't see. And the way I always look at this world is that councils decide what, councils decide this is where we're going, and then you need to have professional administrators working with you to decide how's the best way to get to that destination. They're a huge part of the system, right?
Yeah, and Craig, one of the things that, of course, especially we've got two new governments, federally and provincially, and of course, the administrators have to deal with them because these new governments roll out new programs and then roll out new funding opportunities that, different municipalities can take advantage of. And I know this is something that is, key to your expertise as well. But how important is it that they have the right advice and the right information and the ability to be able to find the programs sometimes in these massive announcements that there's a small program that'll get you $50,000 to do something you've been waiting to do for 10 years. It's backbone important, isn't it?
It is absolutely backbone important is a great phrase to use. And very few municipalities, by the way, have anybody who just does that job. And believe me, it's enough work almost to have a person just doing that, because to your point, there's a lot of government programs out there. A lot of them are very niche. They're for very specific things. They have very specific requirements. But to your other point, they change pretty frequently. So just because you understand that this fund exists and how best to apply for it and what it can be used for and how it can benefit your municipality, doesn't mean that 6 months from now that program isn't going to change and now there's slightly different eligibility requirements. So one of the things, it's a full-time job just keeping up with all of that. And the reason I'm here with a team from Strategic Steps and Pat Kerr and Roxanne Wareham, two other consultants that we're working with, because we've developed a framework. PMA asked us to develop a framework for training and onboarding for administrators right across the province, because they understand that there's an investment needed to make sure that people are on top of things all the time. This is a job where the environment changes quite a lot and quite frequently, and they need a robust program to make sure that your CAO, your director of finance, a small town that has a town clerk manager, those people have the best information, the best awareness of what's going on in the sector that they can possibly have.
Yeah,
so
and they need a navigator
really
a lot of times. Hey, they need a navigator to get through these programs, to find those things that pertain to them, that they qualify for. And there's nothing more frustrating, I don't think, than probably finding out you missed something that you could have gotten. So the work that you're doing there, the work that the Administrators Conference is sharing is extremely important to everybody's home municipality that's listening and out there, because if there's things in your community that you want, things that you'd like to see, and the government seems to have a program for it, they're the ones that got to sort through and figure it out. And they need guidance. You're offering guidance. Craig, are you finding that there's what's the program level like? Because we've heard so much about housing and the programming for housing. It's complicated and there's so many different things happening with it. But then there's the regular programming for basic infrastructure and so forth, and funding for recreation, and funding for wastewater, and all these different things. Is it becoming more of a load, more complicated?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think the unequivocal answer is yes. I think we can lay some of the blame for that on just the fact that in any big system, federal government is a very big system, provincial governments are big systems. In any big system, programs like that tend to grow in complexity over time, because they run into problems, they come up with a new rule to make sure that problem doesn't happen again, and the programs get more and more complicated. The other thing that's going on is, and I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, I think we just need to think about how we respond to it, that there is a growing call for more transparency and more accountability in public spending and public activities, government activities. And that requires more work by the people who are applying for this money, and, to be quite honest, more work by the people who are managing the money. So the regulatory environment, whether it be transparency or environmental regulations, financial regulations, it's getting more complicated. I think one of the challenges we face in this province in particular is that, short of a few really large municipalities, most of our municipalities are quite small. We're talking about 3-people operations when it comes to staff. So they're literally keeping the lights on and trying to keep up with these complex programs, where the larger centers, even the larger centers that have highly trained professional staff, several of them, sometimes they struggle with some of these programs. So there's a real issue there with how we keep up with it. And again, some of it is just the growth of bureaucracy. Some of it is necessary from a regulatory perspective. There's no doubt about that.
Craig, I want to thank you for taking the time this morning. I know you're out there at that conference. It's probably a couple of days, and I'm sure you're a welcome sight to see for many municipalities out there, because I know from M&L and all of that, you don't just work at it, you live at it. So I'm sure you're facing eyes into all of it. So thank you for taking the time from the conference this morning to have a chat with us.
My absolute pleasure. Good talking to you again.
Thanks, Craig. Now, Dave, we are going to go to break right on time. Open Line. I'm your host, Darren Bent. And of course, over the past couple of days or so, we've heard a lot about the food fishery. Different fishers have been calling in, wondering what's going on with this year. And we have something hot off the press from Fisheries and Oceans Canada. They have released the food fishery survey report shortly ago. And this is what they're saying. They've heard 4 key things in this. The importance of the fishery as a food source was identified as the main reason for participating in the survey. Respondents expressed strong interest in an increased access and flexibility, including more fishing days, a revised season of dates that allow them to fish when weather conditions are most suitable. And there was also an awareness of the three distinct stocks and the health, along with strong support for management measures that are directly linked to the health of each stock. And many also supported changes to current management measures, including bag limits and boat limits. So this is exactly what we've been hearing from fishers over the past while. The federal minister, the Honorable Joanne Thompson, Minister of Fisheries from this province, of course, says thank you to everyone who took part in the survey. More than 9,500 people responded, the highest participation ever recorded for a DFO survey, and it reflects how much the food fishery matters to the people of this province. Insights combined with the best available science will help guide the planning for the 2026 food fishery season and beyond. So they're saying they've heard the concerns loud and clear. They're going to combine that with the science, and at some point, and I guess everybody's saying it should be soon, at some point, they will release the plan for the food fishery for 2026, and we'll be hearing a lot more about that in the coming days. Okay, next up on Open Line, I'm going to line 3, and I have John. John, welcome to Open Line.
Hi, good day to you. How are you today?
Not too bad so far, John. What can we help you this morning with?
Well, I'm more or less responding to one of the first calls you had from a lady who had problems with the motor vehicle and pictures and tickets and all this kind of stuff. Now, I'm calling about a slightly bit of a different article, and it's about me. A year or so ago, when I was approaching my 75th birthday, and according to my family doctor, we were required at 75 to undergo a significant test, and I passed every one of the tests except for a vision test. And so she had to submit the form saying that I passed everything except for a vision test. And motor vehicle came back and told me what to do and gave me a certain time frame to have it done with. And in order to do that, I had to go back to my family doctor and ask her to set me up get me an appointment with an optometrist, is it, that deals with vision?
Yep, absolutely.
Yes, and anyway, it took me weeks to get in to see my family doctor to begin with, and the date that the motor vehicle gave me was quickly approaching its end time, where they had basically just suspended my driver's license. And so it took me weeks to get in to see my family doctor. She recommended an
an optometrist, yeah.
Yeah, whatever the title was. It took me weeks to get in to see them. In the meantime, that date had come and gone, and the optometrist or whatever I went to just told me that I needed to have a cataract surgery. Now, that took a wee while to get into what's the name of the Jackman Center down there. They have cataract surgery done because it took them quite a while.
Yeah, they have ophthalmologists down there that do that sort of thing that are,
and in that period of time frame, my license went from being suspended to being canceled. And I went through and had my cataract surgery done, and came out of it, and everything was groovy. And so I went back to them and said, okay, now I'm ready to go, even though my license by that time had been canceled altogether, to try to have it restored. And they set me up with a date to go to see this person down across from the penitentiary. There's a lady down there that does those kinds of vehicle tests. And in that period of time frame, I hadn't sat behind my steering wheel in 10 months. I hadn't driven at all because my license was suspended. And by the time the cancel, so I was rescheduled. I was supposed to go down there and do a test without having practiced. And if you know anything about sports in your sporting world, you got to have done some practice. I hadn't done any. And according to them, they were supposed to take me over a route that I would be somewhat familiar with. And I live in Mount Pearl, but the test was taking place down by Forest Road and through Kitty Vitty Village and all that kind of place.
Yeah, you don't see much of that type of you don't see that type of landscape in Mount Pearl, that's for sure.
No, it's completely 100% different. The speed limits changed. Like the first thing they came back with was they said that I had almost hit a garbage container. I hadn't hit it, but almost hit it. And you said I was going too slow. The speed limit was 50. There was no signs around saying what the speed limit was. And I was doing something over close on 40, under 30, between 30 and 40. I was going too slow. And of course, when I got into Kitty Vitty Village, the speed limit went down to 20. And maybe different to Kitty Vitty Village. If you have, you know that it's a nightmare. And so I managed to. Apparently somebody cut me off because I was going 20. They were probably used to driving down there, and I wasn't. And when I came out of Kitty Vitty Village, I was supposed to go back to 50 again. And then I was supposed to go through all these lanes, outer ring lane where you do lane changes and merge lines and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, between the jigs and the rails, I ended up failing that test. But I said to her, look, I haven't driven in 10 months. I mean, you think you would give me some kind of a chance to get used to being on the road and behind a wheel and that? No. That's it. You're a hit or you're a miss. And I said to her, can I, practice it? We'll come back and redo the test. And she said, no, you failed it, and that's it. And I said, well, is there anyone else I can? She said, no, don't even go there.
That seems a bit odd, though, John. I mean, they're suggesting that there's no possible way that you can get any better at it, and I don't know that that's true. Have you been back to motor vehicle to talk to them about this?
Oh, no, she warned me not to speak to anyone else. I mean, I felt very threatened.
I don't understand that at all. So the person you did the test with said don't speak to anybody about the results of your test? Don't question.
She said to me, don't speak to an MHA, don't speak to a lawyer, don't speak to anyone.
Why?
I'm the be all and the end all in the Donald Trump world, but.
So John, you're going to have to go back to motor vehicle and explain the situation. And look, if there's nothing else, sure, you can do a driving course. Anybody can do a driving course. So if you are getting a sight test, you failed a sight test. If you need to get a new sight test, that's fine. You've done that. You get your surgery. That's perfectly good. You should be set to go. It doesn't make any sense to me that you would be given a test and saying, okay, that's it, you're done. I mean, if that were the case, half of the 16-year-olds out there would never get a license.
Yes, that was one of the things I was saying. Now, granted, like I said, I'm now 76. I mean, and this is a little over a year ago that all this happened, and I've been driving since I was in my early 20s, and so I mean, you're talking about quite a time frame here, and I know some kids of mine who that of my knowledge who were 16, 17-year-olds who got their license and Of course, within a month they had an accident.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's their problem, not mine.
Well, John, I'm coming hard up upon the news here at 11 o'clock. But look, if somebody said to me, don't contact my MHA, don't contact a lawyer, don't talk to anybody about it, you know what I'm doing? I'm calling them all. I want to know what's going to go. So look, if I were you, I'd go back to motor vehicle registration, talk to them about what the scenario is and what your options are. And there's all kinds of, if you have to take a course, there's all kinds of courses you can take to get you back behind the wheel. Supposing you're fit and and safely can do it, then that's what'll happen. But anyways, John, no, I wouldn't follow anybody's advice, especially if they told me not to call a lawyer.
I mean, she led me to think that she was the be all, and there was no appeal.
The driving czar. Okay, well, there we are. Look, John, I'm going to let you go. Get a hold of everybody you can to see who can help you out. And I would start with motor vehicle and go from there and find out what your options are. Okay? Thanks, John. I appreciate it. And give us a call back if you hear anything else and if you get your case progressed any or not. It's 11:01, and I'm going to turn things over to the newsroom now. We'll be back on Open Line shortly.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Well, good morning. I'm Darren Bent hosting today, and I am amazed how fast the morning is going. We've had lots of calls on lots of different subjects, but I'll tell you, there's one thing that people get excited about when the snow's gone off the lawn, off the garden, and what have you, is spring and what we can do in those gardens and what are we supposed to be doing for our lawns. And that is even pushed further when the news is coming out now in the Northeast Avalon. At least one, maybe more, golf courses are opening today. So exciting times, and I have with me somebody who can guide us and help us down that road a little bit. Dan Rubin, welcome to Open Line.
Hey, thanks very much. Always happy to spout off. Yeah.
And Dan, you're the gardening guru that we turn to when we need some helpful advice. And of course, you know about the excitement this time of year. People are looking out there wondering what can they do to help their lawns and their gardens and so forth. Yeah. And are wondering, is it too early? What am I supposed to be doing? Help us out.
Okay, I'm happy to talk about this. I am a learner myself rather than a guru, but I am, again this year, leading workshops. I'm standing right now at the beautiful Mercy Center for Ecology and Justice at 101 Mount Sile Road, and we will have a full-day garden workshop session tomorrow. No, not tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday here, called Creating the Year-Round Garden. And my journey has taken me here, and over the last 23 years, I've been trying to figure out how the heck you grow things here, with some noted successes and some experiments that failed along the way.
Well, that's how we all learn, Dan. That's how we all learn. Yeah. We've all killed something that we feel horrible about, but you keep trying.
I had a peach tree. I killed that one. I'm trying to replace it already. But, so the keys for me, because the weather here, the climate is so changeable from year to year, is creating protective structures over raised beds. Those are boxes full of really rich soil. When you do that, and when you pick the right seeds to grow, not the ones at the big box stores, folks, the good ones that come from local seed suppliers in our region, from Gaze and from Hope Seeds and Revival Seeds and High Mowing and Vessies, then between the protection from wind and cold, the selection of the right seed to plant, and the provision of really rich soil, you're off to a good start. And so I've got a book out called Sun, Seed, and Soil that documents the things that I've learned as a gardener here. And you can do a lot at this time of the year, particularly by starting seeds indoors and getting them ready in pots, under lights, strong lights, because they need a lot of light. And that way, when this snow that I'm looking at out the window right now finally melts away, you'll be ready to put those plants in the ground, whether you have raised beds or not.
Yeah, and the raised bed has become quite a thing, and especially for people like me as I get older, the getting down in the garden. And if you only do it once or twice a year, of course, you understand the garden pain of the next day, getting up and stretching out your knees and your back and all of that. The raised gardens are quite a thing, quite an advancement in backyard gardening for sure.
Yeah, when I first moved here a couple of decades ago, I didn't see any of them, and now they're sprung up all over the place. One of my favorite things about the raised bed, aside from the fact that it helps you really focus on the soil and build up good soil by using mulch, compost, maple leaves, seaweed, manure, all those good organic sources. One of my favorite things is that on a sunny day like today, I can come out with my coffee cup in my right hand, move the coffee cup to the left hand, put my bony butt down on the edge of a 2-inch board, and weed an entire bed free of weeds in 15 minutes. If that makes it easy, and then you do it. If it's hard, I'll do it later. So I'm really a fan of raised beds. But the other thing that I like about the raised beds is that you can use them in our high wind conditions as the foundation to build protective structures. So what I mean by that is another box on top, perhaps with a window or a lid or a plastic lid on top of that. I can actually go out on Christmas Day and harvest salad because it's growing in a box, it's been planted in the fall, and it's covered by a single layer of plastic. So those are some of the things that I discovered here. But this time of year, just like you were saying, it's such a breath of warm air. It's so inspiring. And it's not too early to start things indoors. That's what I would mainly tell people.
Yeah, and Dan, I grew up on a farm, and we had we had greenhouses and cold frames and all that, and the nursery that my parents would grow all kinds of things. I remember living in a house with the flats of seeds in the house.
Really? Where was that to?
Napas Valley in Nova Scotia, and I was really young, and they would grow them in the flats in the house. February, March, they'd have the greenhouses going by March for sure, and getting stuff out there. So you can start inside, get things going. You can nurse them a little better. One of the things I think about gardening too, Dan, is that out of sight, out of mind. It's good to keep it close to where you actually live and where you do things in your yard. If you hide it away,
I completely agree. Yeah.
Right, the weeds are gonna get ahead of you, and then you're gonna be frustrated.
Yeah, everything you can do to make it efficient and easy and fun. Share it with your family, share it with your neighbors when it comes to seeds and things. I used to think, because I've been on this restoring food security journey with a group called Food Producers Forum over the last 7 years, during which the group has raised $900,000 for community food projects. And I used to think it was about plants and food, and really what it's about is community. Newfoundlanders and Labradorians should know that we've always looked after each other. And the garden is one of the places where we can do that. And it feeds more than your mouth. It feeds your soul to be out in the garden, especially on a day like today. So time to get out there. I will say again about the workshops this weekend, Saturday and Sunday at the Mercy Center. We have a couple of open spaces left. Pretty good crowd for each of those days, but a couple of spaces. So if anybody is listening and wants to get their garden on and come to the workshop, they can email me at secondstage@hotmail.com, and I'll see if I can't add them to the workshop for this weekend. A couple of spaces still open.
Excellent, Dan. You guys have a great workshop on Saturday. I'm going to throw one more question at you about the raised beds, because anybody that has hanging flower plants or any type of hanging plant knows that if it's outside, it'll dry out quicker than anything, and you've got to be mindful to keep it watered and so forth. Do the raised beds tend to dry out, or do you use a right type of mixture of the between the peat and the different things that you're using that will keep it damp longer?
Well, in a hot summer like we had last summer, you pretty much had to water them every day. But in general, the raised beds, unlike a container that's hanging or sitting on a deck, are pretty good about holding on to moisture. But one of the things you can do, and this is one of the great secrets of successful gardening, is you mulch. You cover the top with loose material, compost, sometimes wood chips, so they kind of suck up the nitrogen, but you mulch on top, and that protects you against weed growth, but it also holds in moisture. I would love to come back sometime if you want to give me a call and talk some more about the work that Food Producers Forum is doing. The challenge now that the group has taken on is to redesign the entire food system in our province. And we've already had the initial meeting of stakeholders and interested people to work on that. But that's a talk for another time.
Absolutely. And Dan, thank you for your time this morning. And as always, I'm late for the break, so I'm going to turn it over to Dave. You're listening to Open Line. Thank you, Dan, and we'll talk again soon. Now over to Dave. Well, welcome back to Open Line. I'm your host, Darren Bent, and on the line now I have Rhonda. Rhonda, are you talking about something pertaining to firefighters in Upper Island Cove?
Indeed, I am.
How can we help you?
And I couldn't be any happier that we have the team we got. They are worth their weight in gold. The other day when the 2 fires was down, you should see these men go. So professional. Get out there, like in the boots, coats, dress, gone. But we've had our own personal experiences with the fire department.
Okay.
We had a bad brush fire on the back of our homes, and we were close to losing them. And those guys got it out. And in July, when my mother took sick, emergency response was here a half an hour before the ambulance. They took care of my mother. I couldn't ask for any better. They were more professional than the ambulance drivers. Now, I'm not speaking bad about all ambulance drivers. It's just one of the bunch. But those people, I know volunteer firefighters from Torbay, right out to Upper Island Cove and down the shore. All of them, every single one of them, deserves a pat on the back. They deserve the best equipment that's out there. They deserve the best vehicles that's out there. They're putting their life on hold and in danger every day for me, you, and everyone else.
It is absolutely amazing that, in this day, 2026, that we have such a robust and incredibly well trained and eager to help group of volunteer fire stations around our province, and we call them firefighters, but you alluded to it. They do so much more than that. Most of them are trained as first responders to help in medical situations ahead of the ambulance. They're there if it's a fire, whether it's structure or brush fire, and of course, after last year, many more of them are getting the training they need to assist forestry people in wildfires to make sure that we're safer. It is incredible the work that they do.
But people go to school and they do all these courses, and these men gave their time and gotten up from the dinner table to go and either look after a fire, or someone's had a heart attack, or someone has passed, someone hurt themselves some way, slipped and fall, whatever the case may be, they're there.
Yeah, and they also have, a lot of them have employers that make the provision for them to be able to leave in mid-work to go out and help in their community.
Yeah, I don't know about that on our boards, but I do know that they are a volunteer fire department. And, like, I've known some of them since they're babies, and I grew up with some of them. And I have not seen a group of firemen come across so professional and keep to it. Like, you know, the chief and second in command makes the call, and them boys attack that fire, and, like, it's amazing just watching it.
You must be concerned, with a fire so early. It must make you worried for what possibly could come for the rest of the year.
Well, my aunt lives directly across the road to where that fire started. And she said, it's amazing how nothing happened up there yet. And it had to be yesterday that, because she was surprised, right? Like, they got through last summer. And, like, when they're in their 80s, like, you've got gray hair communities. And Upper Island Cove is no exception. It's gray hair. And, like, they fear for this stuff. They watch out the window. They look to see what's going on. And, like, I said to my aunt, I said, boys, the boys got it together. And my mother took sick. In less than 5 minutes, the first couple of guys were here at the house. And what I didn't know, not only were the team inside, but the whole team the rest of them, was outdoors on the back by the ramp, waiting to relieve someone if, it got a little stressful, right? I was so impressed. I cried and I done it all, right?
Yeah.
And the fire up in Flings Lane, like, that took in 2 communities, Bishop's Cove and Upper Island Cove. And it's a past, we used to pick blueberries years ago that way. And it's sad when you see fires break out. And, these men, like, I can't say enough. Like, I can't put them up much higher than I do.
Okay. Well.
And, like, I will tell them to their faces, right? And, like, attaboy, and, good job. And I was down under the hill, down by the post office and the drugstore. And as fast as they can go. And, like, it's not just fire, it's emergency response. And there's no time, and they're here.
Yeah, and the great thing, too, Rhonda, is that they are keen to the training. If there's training available, in my experience, the volunteer firefighters around this province, they want the training, they want to be prepared, they want to have the right gear and all of that. And, of course, the onus is on all the communities to make sure that our firefighters are given the tools that they need to not only to protect you, but to protect themselves when they're in dangerous situations. And some of these fires, of course, that happen, all kinds of chemicals and so forth could be involved. But they are absolutely keen for the training, and we've heard some programs that have gone around now to help bolster training, help bolster the equipment that firefighters have, and I know that communities around the province will be taking advantage of that this year. I think there was 58 different communities received some funding just recently from the province to get them a little further down the road in what they're able to offer their fire departments. Rhonda, is there anything else you wanted to say before I let you go?
Yes, I think every fire department need upgrading with their trucks, and the ones it should be, especially for the emergency response, everything at the fingertips. The same way would be an ambulance.
Yeah.
And the government should step up to the plate and give these guys and girls whatever they need.
Rhonda, thank you for your call this morning. And yeah, you're absolutely right. They need the tools to do the job that they're trained to do, to be able to offer the best protection for all of us around the province. And I know this, that, when they have those tools, when they have that training, when they have that equipment, they're more than happy to stand on a line to help protect all of us. Rhonda, thank you for calling this morning. I'm hard upon a break. We appreciate the shout out for our volunteer fire departments and all fire departments around the province, and the forestry people, and all of them. They do yeoman service for all of us with public safety as their key reason. So thank you very much. And Dave, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we're going to go to break.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Welcome back to Open Line. I'm your host, Darren Bent, and we're going to line 2 with Dave. Dave, you're on Open Line. Good morning.
Good morning. How's everybody today?
Not too bad. Thursday. It's dry out there, which is where I set the bar now. If it's dry, I'm happy.
Very good. Very good. I just wanted to touch base on a couple of topics that you had some conversations with people this morning. Your first caller, Kathy, who received the photo radar ticket. It's unfortunate that she was in a school zone, and I don't condone that in any way, shape, or form. But anybody that gets caught for speeding by a camera needs to challenge the validity of the calibration of that piece of equipment. In Canada, every radar enforcement piece of equipment needs to be calibrated frequently for use. For cases when you do go to court, the police officer brings forth his evidence that he calibrated that piece of equipment at a certain time, did the certain tests. If those are not completed, you can't write a ticket, or you face going to court, somebody challenging that ticket. In Newfoundland, we do contract to an Ontario company. My concern with them also would be, Kathy stated on their website, they say they are peace officers. Who qualifies them as peace officers? Because my understanding is each province has their own mandate on how a peace officer is able to perform their job. And being from Ontario, there's a lot of laws different here in Newfoundland than there is in Ontario. And I would also challenge that aspect of things. Doug Ford did remove those cameras because he was correct. They were a cash grab. I think everybody who gets a ticket from a photo radar should challenge it.
Yeah, and I think we've also found that I think governments have also found that it's a political nightmare in some respects, because it just gets the ire of people up when they start getting these tickets in the mail. Your calibration point brings to mind as well, like the detectors that police have in their vehicles, the ones they use for handheld alongside the road. They all have to be calibrated. There's also a number that you can drive that you won't set it off off because there is a differential in where the accuracy is that can be challenged. Is it can it be as accurate as right to the kilometer? No. So you have to give yourself a little bit of a berth so you don't pull somebody over going 3 kilometers over the speed limit. Not that they would anyway, but there has to be a bit of a difference in where they can be absolutely sure that you are speeding. They can't guess at it, and they can't. Now somebody comes along at 160, that's easy. But if you're going up the road with a photo radar that's untested, unchallenged, you're absolutely right. It's another good point. And it's something that I don't know if it's gone through the court systems anywhere yet to any degree to determine what is right and what is wrong. But I have a sneaky suspicion we're going to see a lot of challenges over the next while with these machines that they've set up around. I think there's 5 of them in place now in the province.
Well, everybody has the right to confront their accuser, and if their accuser is a camera, then there needs to be a representative from that company managing the camera system to be available in court to answer questions.
Absolutely.
That's our democratic right.
Yeah,
really.
and they would have to provide the information with regards to the camera because, look, I don't know how these cameras work specifically, but if there's something that can throw them off from severe weather or anything else, they're adjusted a different way that affects their readings and so forth. All of that has to be looked at, and we don't know enough about it yet. And hopefully we're going to find out more from the province over the next little while to see what exactly is going on, And of course, how does the ticket? Is it a $650 standard ticket? Is that the standard fee? I'm sure that ticket fees are on the government website. I haven't looked at them yet this morning, but I will. And are we paying other fees for tickets as well that come from these things?
I think going through a school zone, there's no set fine. I think that's a court appearance. Well, it is in Ontario anyways. But speaking from personal experience, when I was in Ontario, because I was a volunteer police officer as an auxiliary officer, and I did many ride-alongs in where the officer that was going out to do radar, whether it was the dash-mounted or the handheld unit, had to be tested before he could use it and documented in his notes. For such a case, he had to go to court to present his evidence that piece of equipment is working accurately. And there's different ways that you can do that. You can do it with a tuning fork on the older models that have the big bubble on the end of the handheld, or you use a distance factor when you're parked stationary against a flat surface in the distance for the dash-mounted ones or the rear-mounted antennas on the radar unit itself. But everybody should challenge here in Newfoundland the camera photo radars. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this rolls out and see where those challenges may lead. But interesting to find out for sure. And certainly we're looking for some more information on what the intention is with regards to the ticketing and fine and so forth. Did you have anything else on that, Dave?
I did. Actually, I wanted to just say, a physical police officer will typically allow 5 kilometers for driver error and 5 kilometers for mechanical error. So 10 kilometers over the speed limit's safe, not condoning speeding, don't get me wrong, but it's just a rule of thumb that I think is general consensus in law enforcement. And I wanted to talk to Rhonda for a second about the volunteer firefighters in Newfoundland, because I am a volunteer firefighter here in Newfoundland now. There is a program called Fire Smart that I would encourage everybody to visit online to see the different ways everybody can make their house and surrounding area and community fire safe. It's a very good program. I've had the training. I've sat in on different training opportunities regarding forest fires and brush fires. By far, Newfoundland Fire Services is going above and beyond to help us and give us the tools to be able to fight these fires, whether they're deliberately set or Mother Nature decides to set a fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Fire Smart program is something that communities across the province are pushing out there to help residents help themselves and to help firefighters as well. It's a great program.
Yeah. And thank you, Rhonda, for your recognition. It resonates through all us volunteer firefighters and first responders in the island. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Dave, for the work that you do, and great stuff. And thanks for raising the issue on speed cams. I'm going to go now to Ryan. Let me see, line 3. Ralph, good morning. Welcome to Open Line.
Good morning, Darren. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
This is Ralph Tapper in Torbay. Good to hear your voice on the radio, but you're back in business there.
Well, Ralph, it's good to hear you too. How are things down in Torbay?
Oh, bustling by. You know, we've actually, like everybody else, we got a new council in, and they're doing a lot of great work. So we're moving along as any other community should, you know.
What are you calling about this morning,
I just wanted to talk to you for a few minutes because I'm chair of the Newfoundland Labrador Irish Committee. And we're trying to get our group back in business because in 2020, up to 2020, we had hundreds of people travel to and from Ireland for touring and that sort of thing. And what we call gatherings, we have music performers, coming going as well. So we're trying to get back on track. From 2020, we had 60 people actually sign up to go, but we had to cancel the whole works. So back in September of last year, we actually have 42 people come over from Ireland to a gathering here in the St. John's area, and we had them out in Branch as well. And really took off well. So now it's our turn to go visit Ireland, and we have 47 people booked to go planning to go in August of this year. So I just wanted to let you know, again, we've got the Islanders, a group from the Bay Roberts area. We got them booked to go as performers, and we had a meeting the other day with all the travelers, and we got a great crew. So just want to let you know we're doing to offset some of the costs of travel for the performers and others. We've got a fundraiser slated for at the Knights of Columbus building on St. Clair Avenue. It's Saturday, August the 26th. There's a concert and a dance. We got 4 excellent bands, including the Islanders from Bay Roberts. We got Sean Sullivan with the Ramblers, and the Gallows Cove band here from Torbay, Joe Malloy and others, and a new band, Blue Hill, featuring Jimmy Carroll and others as well. So that's, hopefully we're going to get a good turnout because it is a good cause to get some performers over to showcase themselves in Ireland. So that's Saturday, August the 26th. I'm sorry, April the 26th. My wife just reminded me.
I thought that was a bit of an early plug there, Ralph.
Yeah.
So April 26th, and that's, of course,
April 26th. We're going over there in August. Sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah. And so you got a group going over to Ireland. That should be fantastic. And I'm sure the Irish, when they visited here, felt right at home.
Oh, they did, and they put off quite a show, and they performed all over the city, St. John's, and had a great time down in Branch as well.
Okay, Ralph.
So we're looking forward to
keeping
it.
the connection alive from Ireland to Newfoundland. So, folks, April 26th, they've got the fundraiser. Sounds like a great lineup of acts from around here to support the trip. You're going in August. Ralph, thanks for calling in, letting us know.
Like I mentioned, Darren, we're on the go since 2005, and we just don't want to see this die.
No, you're getting it back together. Sounds like you're off to the races, and have a great trip in August. Ralph, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm past my break again.
Okay.
So you're listening to Open
much,
Line, and we'll be right back in just a few moments. Thanks, Ralph. Welcome back to Open Line. I'm your host, Darren Bent, and we are going to go to line 1 with Reg. Reg, you're on Open Line. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you, Darren? And welcome to, how should I put it, Voice of the Common Man, or welcome to the greatest open line show in Canada.
I'll take all that, and I have nothing to do with any of it, but I play a small role here this week, and it's great to have you on, Reg. What do you want to talk about this morning?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I know you're pressed for time. The dog has gone crazy now. Anyway, And there's a few things on the food fishery. I'm no stranger to open line. I've been advocating for this for a lot of years, and now they got a committee, and I appreciate what they're doing. But there's a limit, I guess, to what they can do. But, you know, I was thinking last night, Darren, I know you're new and what have you, and by the way, you're doing an excellent job. I've listened to you, but unfortunately I never got the opportunity to get on the week. I've been doing other things. But if you could get somebody on, you know, from DFO, someone in their department, now it might be a bit tough because I've made numerous calls this week to different departments. I'm going to tell you, 99% you're going to get a recording. Leaving a message is don't work half the time. But I can understand fully why DFO is having so many issues, or Joanne Thompson, the federal minister, when it comes to trying to get a handle on this food fishery. And I'm going to give you a few examples. I got a commercial seal license. I had a problem going in online. You got to do everything now online. It's not like when I first started. And I had some issues. They wouldn't accept payment. And of course, I couldn't get my license. Finally, I got a number. And I called this lady, and curiosity killed the cat. I asked her where she was from, thinking she was going to say St. John's, exactly, you know. No, she was up in New Brunswick. Now, for the love of God, I mean, I'm trying to get a seal license, and I'm going to tell you something. That lady, God love her, she was a little bit uncertain where I was coming from and what I was trying to establish in the first, so she put me on to another lady, but it just blew me away. Now I'm going to give you another example. I said, you know, I'm going to call Joanne Thompson's office. I know I'm not going to get to talk to her. I mean, I probably get to talk to Trump quicker than her, but that's irrelevant. But anyway, I got a number. I called, this gentleman answered the phone, and I said, I know I won't get the opportunity to speak to Minister Joanne Thompson. Is there someone in her department I can speak with regarding our food fishery? He said, sir, he said, first of all, he wanted my name. I had no issue with that. He said, what's it in regard to? And I said, well, sir, I just explained to you our food fishery or recreational fishery. He said, where are you calling from? I said, Newfoundland. He didn't know where Newfoundland was. Now, for the love of God, Darren, you know, give me a break. I mean,
who in the world doesn't know where Newfoundland is? Who in the world doesn't know?
You know, I mean, she's a minister of fisheries. I mean, it's it's her people working for her, and I thought it was a joke. Actually, I mean,
I think they were having you on.
Nobody's laughing.
I think they were having you on. To be honest with you, Reg, they must know where
Darren,
Newfoundland is.
I don't know, but I'll tell you something, my son. This food fishery is gone beyond, you know, I can't put a handle on it. I mean, I'm an old senior, come from a fishing town, and, you know, it's so ludicrous and so stupid. I can't even find words for it. And like I said, it's a tough word, a hard word to say, but discrimination is pretty well point blank as far as I'm concerned. So to the people who's running DFO, for God's sakes, go back to the blackboard, stop and think what you're doing to the people of this great province, you know, our tradition, our culture, our way of living, and telling us what to do and what we can't do when it comes to going out and getting a few cod to put on the table. Yeah. And let me assure you, DFO, we are not all criminals. Now,
Yeah, and Reg, I hear you on that point because in some cases it seems like they're punishing the innocent. But DFO did release a statement this morning. They released actually the report that basically gave them 4 key points, and they're the same things that I've been hearing all week on Open Line from people that are concerned about the food fishery, and of course it's about being able to get out at different times. It's about safety and all of that. And so they're saying they're going to use that. They're going to mix that with the science and come up with a plan. And I don't know how long that's going to take. And of course, the timing is frustrating as well, isn't it? Because people want to prepare. They want to know when it is they can do these things. You just don't. It's on tomorrow. I'll just jump out and go do it. That's not the way it works at all. So I'm not sure if there's going to be any changes this year, but they did do the report. They say they are aware of the concerns, and 96% of the respondents, I think they said, were from Newfoundland and Labrador. So the people that compiled the report know where we are.
Well, here's the thing, they're not no rush, my buddy. Those meetings and consultations, that's only a farce. They're not no rush to do anything for the food fishery. It's just a come off. I mean, they had meetings with FFAW. They had a few meetings with the commercial fishermen, I think, according to the news I got, and the buyers and all that. But I mean, we're left on the back burner, so I don't know. But anyway, buddy, listen, it's great talking to you, and I'm no stranger, like I say. You will hear from me again on not only the food fishery, but on different matters here in this little province. And like I say, you're doing a hell of a job, and keep it up. And thank you, sir, and have a good one.
All right, Reg, you have a great day. Thank you very much for calling. Okay, and that makes Reg, you are the last caller of the day. So we're just going to finish up here now with another minute or so. And I want to finish off on this because I'm going to mention a birthday today that, of course, it's a posthumous one, but Jerry Rafferty was born on this day in history. And, of course, Jerry Rafferty, famous for Stealers Wheel, the Stuck in the Middle with You and Pulp Fiction, and all of that. He passed away in 2011. But he wrote a song that is extremely popular here in Newfoundland and Labrador, and a lot of people may not know that he wrote it. I certainly didn't know it till recently. But in the late 60s, he was with a band called the Humble Bums. And his partner in the Humble Bums was Billy Connolly, the comedian. And they recorded a song that has been recorded over and over again here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And I thought this was a Newfoundland song, but Her Father Never Liked Me Anyway was written by Jerry Rafferty along with Billy Connolly back in the 60s, and it's been recorded by Sons of Erin. It's been recorded by Chris Andrews, Shannon Gannuck, and of course the first recording that I remember hearing, I think was in the late 70s, of course, by Chris Hennessy. So I'll leave you on that thought. The Humble Bums, Her Father Never Liked Me Anyway. Have a listen to it later today, and I'm sure Greg Smith's going to play it somewhere along the line. Thank you for listening, and thank you for calling on Open Line. It's great to be here. I'm your host, Darren Bent. I will be back tomorrow morning to finish off the week, and now I'm going to turn it over to the newsroom. Have a good day.